Which players are the 2023 Red Sox breakout candidates? Part 2.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I want to welcome you back into the Locked On Red Sox podcast, and thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I'm your host, Jake Ignazuski, and this is part 2 of my conversation with Coop Leonard, where we talk about the players that we think are breakout candidates for the 2023 season. Coop and I also look at multiple other players in part 2 and sort of break down our feelings going into the season about the Boston Red Sox. Let's get into part 2 of my conversation with Coop Leonard.
I think so as well. And I think, especially when they did sign Turner, like that player option for like $11 million, I was like, but he's going to be 40. But like the output, who knows, like after this season, like then we'll really know like if he is going to like give you a good output during his 40th age season. Like it's kind of a no-brainer for him. Yes, you're going to take more money next year as a player option than you're getting this year. But I agree with you. Like the veteran aspect is ginormous for Turner as well as Kike. And, I love the energy that he's also mixed with, Devers as well. We saw in some of the mic'd ups, he's starting to speak more English, him and Doogie, going back and forth. And, I think as well, I love how Kike is just embracing the semi-cockiness of like, oh, you don't believe in me? Just watch. Like, I love that aspect of him, but you got to show it. And I think as well, like, not only, this goes into the topic of, breakout candidates, like, is he a part of the future? He's on a 1 year, $10 million deal. He's 31 years old. Is he part of the future? And, I think that's one thing that this season will really define. And I think it's really important for us to understand that, not only, us meeting the Red Sox in terms of the front office, and is him and Turner going to be the next guys who kind of like carry over, this Red Sox team and then into the younger guys of like Meyer, York, who knows, you know what I mean?
I've been like wrestling with this thought all off season of when Heimblum signs a guy, like we don't see, like it's typically like the 1 to 3 years is what he is signing. Like he's not overcommitting. Yoshida, he did his 5 years. Obviously Devers, he did the 11, 10.
But it was 11.
With an 11 because he had the extension. Yeah. It's kind of like I think Yoshida and Devers are guys that he clearly sees as, I want here for a championship. Mm-hmm. Whereas when he's making those 1 to 2 years, I'm sure it's kind of like, all right, these are guys that I'm bringing in to potentially win a championship. But it's also, I'm not thinking about them like, sizing up their rings. Like Devers and Yoshida, I can probably see him saying, I've sized up their rings in my head when we put out this contract to them.
Right.
So it's kind of, I would love to be inside Heim's brain and kind of figure out what the criteria is of, okay, we're going to overcommit because we want this guy here when we eventually get ourselves a piece of metal.
Right.
So I think that's like a very interesting world to be in as an executive.
Yeah, because who wants a piece of metal? It's like, it doesn't even matter. Like,
no one cares about it. You kidding me?
But, I think as well, you brought up Yoshida, and, he's somebody who I hated the flack that contract ended up getting right after the Xander stuff. It was sort of like the Red Sox were already the punching bag. Then like all these GMs were like, Yoshida's worth like a half of the $90. Let's just keep on punching down and be
I think that was everyone. That's everyone drinking the Kool-Aid and just kind of being like, oh, it's cool to dump on the Red Sox right now. Let's continue doing it. Like as a rival executive, who is giving props to someone else that is trying to steal your food? Like,
right, exactly.
I'm not going to come out and say, Hal Steinbrenner's doing an amazing job as an owner. Brian Cashman has just done a fabulous job getting the Yankees to the postseason every year for the last 10 years without a championship. I'm not saying that. I'm not giving him kudos. Like, it's just not how this world works. Of course, I'm going to dump on a rival exec anonymously just to make sure like players out there are kind of like, oh, the Red Sox aren't taking it seriously. I don't want to sign there. I'm going to sign with a team that's actually competitive. Right. Like, you have to look past the headlines sometimes.
And, I think with the Yoshida as well, obviously there's the question marks of if he's able to acclimate from Japan to the major leagues. But the one thing, I was watching this documentary of the 2001 season when Ichiro first came into the league. And, Yoshida's been compared directly to Ichiro and, the Juan Soto of Japan. And it was interesting because they showed Ichiro like doing BP, and the guys on the Mariners like, oh geez, like I don't know if this guy can cut it. Like, can he actually play in the majors? And like those were the headlines. Like, how is he going to acclimate from Japan, and can he hit major league pitching? Like, yes, there's going to be some sort of there's going to be some of those growing pains, like Cora already talked about it with some of the sinkers. Like, he had never seen anything like that before prior to spring training. Like, yes, there's going to be those growing pains. I've also said about Yoshida as well, like, as Boston fans, like, we want to see instant gratification, like immediately, like, oh, is this guy worth $90 million? No, I mean, he's hitting like 270 when he's supposed to be hitting 300 in April.
270, 389 in his first year. I can't, Felga, I can't take this anymore. You're right, Mike. He sucks. That's what you're going to hear. Like, that's just what you're going to hear. But yeah, I mean, like that Ichiro guy, how did he end up doing?
He was all right.
He was all right. He did decent.
He was okay.
And everything from the WBC that I've seen so far has only been, kind of building up that whole mystique of Yoshida.
Yeah.
Because he mashed the ball a couple times during the tournament. He kind of, after pool play, I don't think he has done too much. But it's also kind of like when you have Shohei Ohtani on your team, you really have to do that much to win.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'm excited to see him return. It'll be interesting to see how things go as he adjusts to the, like, that's my biggest fear with Yoshida, is adjusting to the new rules.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for a bunch of players that are running deep into the WBC.
I agree.
The benefit of that, though, is the fact that all these guys are it's Japan, the US, and Mexico. All these teams have absolute studs on their team, especially the US and Japan. So like when these guys return, I'm not really too worried about them adjusting to the rules. Like I'm not worried at all about Mike Trout's baseball IQ having to adjust to a pitch clock.
I agree.
I'm just going to put that out there right now.
So that is one thing when watching the game yesterday, I literally said to my boy, I was like, these guys are taking a really long time to like get into the box. Like,
they're treasuring that. They're treasuring all that time because they know in a week they're not going to have it anymore. But yeah, like Yoshida never having played in the MLB before the WBC, now having to move into that. Yeah, I'm a little bit of worried. All right. I know I just said I'm not worried about their baseball IQs and whatnot, but Yoshida, who hasn't had that experience at the MLB yet. Yeah, I'm curious to see how things will play out, but he's going to have 162 games to figure it out. And then, 4 more years after that. So I think he's going to be a treasure for this team.
And I think as well, those people who are going to get nervous in May and in June, talk to me in September. Like that's what I'm going to be looking at. Like, what does he give you from April to, September, October, when the season ends? Like, and at the same time, I hope it's not like this, but I mean, Story coming over to Boston his first season obviously was riddled with injuries. Like it's not what you thought it was going to be. And that doesn't always happen with some of these semi-long-term contracts. Like you're not going to immediately give the team the value that they placed on you. I think that's sort of, at least in my mind, that's what I look at as some of these players. It's like, are you like getting up to the bar in my mind of like checking off those boxes to ultimately get to that value of the $90 million over 4 years. But I think with Yoshida, with the plate discipline that he's obviously showed in Japan, the ability to, not only get on base through walks, but also just hitting base hits left and right. I'm also curious to see sort of, we heard all throughout spring training, Cora and all the coaches just raving about him, like him voluntarily going to spring training early, already starting to jive with the guys, him being at the Super Bowl party. And I think that's exactly what you want to see from a guy. And even showed too, just coming up with a whole sentence at the press conference, speaking in English, you know what I mean? I think he's going to fit in perfectly here. But I think as well, this is why he's on your list of a breakout candidate. Like, he's really got to show you at least something.
conversation with Coop, I just want to take a second to talk to you about FanDuel. So the tournament is heating up, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from money line to point scores and threes drained. One thing that you can definitely look out for, including the Red Sox, is some player props. Rafael Devers, over/under home runs, Red Sox making the playoffs, making the World Series. So if you have high hopes for this team going into next season, definitely make sure to look at some of those props over on FanDuel. Plus, they even let you combine bets for a chance at a bigger payout with same game parlay. So don't miss your chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go over to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Now let's get back into my conversation with Coop.
Oh, but that backswing though, when he follows through, I don't know if you've caught yourself kind of rewinding videos, but he's got a smooth swing.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
No.
That's why when you brought up the Ichiro comp, I was kind of like, yeah, it's there. I
Yeah.
see it. I don't want to buy into it too much because I might get disappointed, but yeah, it's there and it's nice.
Yeah, I agree. And I think from what everybody said, I love all the positivity about him. But although I'm just like I'm at that point where I'm just itching just for regular season games. Like I just want to stop like the over analyzing of spring training and sort of just be like, all right, this is what we got. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just excited for everything to start. And I'm also curious to see sort of how some of the other breakout candidates that some of the other people brought up really do. We had I'm gonna go down the list first of some of the people that I agreed with.
I've got a name in my mind, and as soon as you say it, I'm gonna pick your brain on it because there's one guy that I'm very excited about.
Okay, so starting off at least with Yoshida, Sox Attic, and Ajahir. I think I said that right. Awful pronunciation. I ended up agreeing with you with Yoshida, and then Alex Verdugo, Sox recaps, Jag Gilbert 99, and also Clapper 690 agreed with me on the Verdugo, and then Big Sox guy and Talk Sox to me agreed with me with the Arroyo. But let's go down some of the other lists. We got Rolo Manhattan. He said, I got a few. Cassis, Bayo, Whitlock, Masataka Yoshida, Alforo, Tapia. The list goes on of the people with something to prove who can capture the attention of Red Sox Nation.
What's the biggest name on that list for you?
The biggest name on that list for me, Whitlock.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I
want to hear you explain that first. Go ahead. Go.
So with Whitlock, and people who listen to this podcast know that I'm more on the side of I want to see what he can do as a starter. He came up through the system as a starter. Lauren's more of the guy of keep him in the bullpen, maybe as a closer as the future. Now, I think with Whitlock, you could say, Bayo has a lot to prove. But I think he's already shown you that he's very special and he's going to be in this Red Sox rotation for a long time. Cassis, yes, struggled a little bit starting to get up, into the majors, starting out, but you already sort of
Still
know
the #1 first base prospect.
Yeah, and you also already you saw obviously the minors don't always correlate to the majors. He's one of the most mature guys that at least I've seen. Other Red Sox players say this as well. Prospect that you've seen come up. Even Ian Brown said he's the most confident player prospect that he's seen come up since Dustin Pedroia. And Whitlock, I think there's just so much just riding on. Is he a starter or is he a bullpen arm? And I think last year was an unfair opportunity for him to really show you what he had, just getting thrown into it. It was one of the biggest reasons why he had the hip surgery and the injury overall. And I think now that he's had a full season to sort of work up to being a starter, I think he's got the biggest stuff riding on him.
Yeah. That I'm really thinking about the bullpen. Oh man, because it brings up the whole I think I would rather see Whitlock from the starting position, but Houck has to be in the bullpen.
Yeah,
I think we've gone through this experiment far too long now, and yeah, it's kind of because everyone's been hurt last year, but it's long overdue just to have that setup of Whitlock needs to be, or not needs to be, but I think you still need to try out that whole bullpen versus starting position. But Houck should just be locked down as your bullpen guy now, whether he's going to be 7-8 or possibly just set up.
Well, it stings too
I'm
because
just tired of seeing him starting.
he keeps on getting thrown in positions where he has to start. Like at the
That's
start of
true.
the season, like he's going to be in the rotation because of the injuries. And yes, I completely agree with you. Like it's great that he's working on that third pitch, but he's shown you time and time again that he's just not a starter in the majors. He's just not.
Which is fine. I mean, like the whole, it's not really the joke. It's a matter of fact. Starters get paid, and that's why guys, when they're younger, they try to become a starter, even if they're like absolute nails in the bullpen. I mean, what you're seeing with Whitlock and Houck, I think more so Houck, since Whitlock got that nice contract, is he's trying to get that starter money, which I don't blame him. And
Yeah.
you know what? Like starting a game's fun. Being an absolute mental case the day of and going in with your blinders on, I'm sure that's a fun time, especially on the big stage. But sometimes you just kind of have to know your role and figure out that, hey, I'm a more valuable asset and I'm more dangerous to a batter when I'm, in the 6th or 7th inning, and I can come in and just catch you off your toes with a nice heater. Like that's just who he is.
I think with Houck too, there's the whole aspect of like Heim's the one that said that he was going into spring training as a starter. I've thought for so long that it was just a ploy to continue to add to his trade value. But like in my mind, it's Houck and Verdugo as the two main trade candidates like throughout this offseason, and nothing has happened. And so like now I think it's just sort of like, oh shoot, like all these injuries are piling up. I guess we sort of need them now. And, especially with, the lack of sort of security in the rotation, you got to have multiple of those long reliever sort of options to be able to fill in. And, Heim always says you can never have enough pitching depth. But I think with Houck, he's at another point, similar to, I guess Verdugo as well. Are you going to continue down the arbitration road, or is he part of the future? And are you going to give him sort of like a Whitlock type of extension?
Whitlock was what, 3 years, 18?
So yeah, it was like 4 years, but I think it goes from like 5, 6, like 8, and then like the end of it is like 10, like 11. And so like it's really cheap for like obviously an average starting sort of salary. But if he is in the bullpen, like he's an effective bullpen arm, most bullpen arms are around 10 anyways.
4 years, 18 and a half.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, I mean, like, it's not the biggest commitment in the world, like you said. It's not like he's the biggest asset. He's a young asset. But it is like, Houck has to look at that and kind of says, all right, my best friend here just got locked up, and I would like to remain pitching on the same team as my good friend here, where we can sport cardigans all day long for the Red Sox photo shoot. But yeah, like, I just reiterate, I think if he wants to remain a Red Sox for the foreseeable future, got to be the bullpen. Got to be the bullpen.
And then we got Jurassic Mike. He said Casas and Bayo. Then we got Domingo. He said Duran, Arroyo, Bayo, Mata. He said hell, there's plenty. Then we got Brian Goslow. He said Cutter Crawford, who I think could play a huge role. Not only potentially in the rotation to begin the year, but also as a long reliever. He's looked really good so far in spring.
Yeah, I was actually just listening to Sox Prospect today. I believe their episode from last week. I'm not sure when they typically drop. But they had Alex Spear on, and the whole gang was kind of talking about Cutter might have it this year. Cutter, he has a lot to prove, and it's like an uphill battle for him. But all the guys there seem like very high on the fact that if this is the year that he breaks out, it's going to be fun to watch him.
Yeah.
So he's been someone that I've been kind of like keeping my radar up for. Who knows? That's the thing. Like every MLB team, I feel like, unless you were the Cleveland Guardians,
or the Rays.
Yeah,
I know what you're gonna say.
Like your bullpen is always good,
but they just churn out. They just churn out young pitching, and nothing ever fails. Nothing.
I hope that you are enjoying my conversation with Coop. I just want to take a second to talk to you about Ultimate Pro Baseball GM. So this is one thing that I have been glued to over the last few weeks or so. Ever since Locked On MLB hosts have essentially been going against each other. I've got to make sure that my team is as good as possible, and got to put the GM hat on, put the podcaster, the Red Sox fan hat on, when I come on for this podcast. But when I'm playing this game, in my mind, I'm thinking like some of the best GMs in history. Theo Epstein, Chaim Bloom, Andrew Friedman, obviously those are just Red Sox ones in my mind. But I try and take what hasn't worked for the Red Sox and, use what I think is best for running a team and running a winning team, like, keeping homegrown talent as well as, extending players to, good contracts. Wish they did that with Xander Bogaerts. Thank God they did it with Rafael Devers. But other things that you can do on the Ultimate Pro Baseball GM app is you can hire the right coaches and staff to manage your team finances as well. You can do the scouting, the drafting. You can also manage the different personalities. So you can look at the leader or the cancer of the clubhouse. And we all know, especially with the chemistry of a team, how much that means in terms of winning the whole thing. And so that's obviously anybody's goal when you're a GM, is to stack up the World Series trophies and to get as many wins as possible. That's what I've been doing since I've been joining this app and playing it. But it's so much fun. You can also navigate your franchise through free agency and all the ups and downs of the season. And so if you're looking for a challenging and realistic game, it's completely free, and you can even play it offline, whether you have internet or whether you don't have internet. You can play it on the go, anywhere you go. Ultimate Pro Baseball GM is for you if you not only love baseball, but you've always wanted to be a GM growing up. And Locked On listeners actually get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On in the game store. So make sure to check it out. Go and download the game. Just visit probaseballgm.com, scan the code, or look it up on the app stores. That's probaseballgm.com. The Ultimate Baseball GM. Start your dynasty today. Now let's get back into my conversation with Coop.
Until they inevitably leave.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you're right.
But like, they really know how to develop pitchers there, and that's something that I'm super envious of, because it feels like we really haven't done that in a while.
We haven't.
Bayo, maybe. Bayo he looked good the other day. He had an all-time, I don't know if you saw this quote, but he was asked if he used anything that Pedro Martinez had shown him, and he just said how to not be afraid to go inside with the ball. And I was just like, fuck yeah. Or sorry, didn't mean to start there. But I was just kind of like, yeah, dude, brush him off your plate, control it. And like, I think he's going to be such a fun player to watch this year. Like, I'm not ready to have my heart broken by him, because that's how confident I am in him. But that there's also that potential of now I'm riding way too high on him, and he does have a bar to hit, but I think he can hit it, and it will be fun for Red Sox fans to watch him have those starts. I believe they said that because of his delay during the spring training, when he was feeling a little bit of tightness in his forearm, he's most likely looking at like 4 starts at AAA before coming
I
up.
wouldn't be surprised about
that would put him mid-April. So enjoy him out there for me until he can come up to Boston, because once he's up here, like I want Bayo Day every day.
Yeah, me too. And I think, that gives Winkowski an opportunity. Who knows? Paxton will probably go through a whole like rehab thing similar to Bayo. Probably won't see Paxton until May or so. But for majority of the rest of the responses, it's essentially Bayo. But I'm curious, that one name. What was that one name that you were curious about?
Oh, it was Bayo.
Okay.
Yeah. I love my guy.
Because I think what he showed you in the later part of his time last season, like he can't really look at the 8 some odd like ERA right when he got thrown into it after starting the season in AA. Like, you just can't expect a young pitcher like that to be able to give you Cy Young type innings right out of the gate. And I think once he got comfortable, you saw a potential future ace or number 2 for the long term. And I think that sort of ties into the Whitlock thing as well. If this Red Sox team really has two dominant young starters in Whitlock and Bayo, like I mean, if
the future's looking pretty good. I will take that.
If you can just add like one sure thing, like Shane Bieber or something, you know what I mean? We talked about Bieber last time he came on.
Don't get my hopes. I'm already getting my hopes up with Bayo here. Do not do more to me.
But like,
my heart can only take so much.
But then, like we brought it up obviously throughout this whole episode of the breakout candidates. But if some of these guys break out, like the future could look really, really good.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm excited.
Me too, man.
I need it to start up. Give me March 30th already.
Seriously, very close. 9 days from when this will be posted. But any final thoughts going into the season, just for where your mind's at?
I guess PSA. Be kind to yourself out there, Red Sox fans. It's gonna be an uphill battle this season. Mixing plenty of waters at Fenway. Yeah. But no, in all seriousness, like I'm ready for baseball to be back. It's been a long off season. It'll be nice to get some content going for the shows over at Odyssey. Might have stuff in the works. Who knows? Little teaser. So be sure to follow. But yeah, dude, I'm excited for Red Sox Twitter to be popping off. Get some memes out there. That's what I'm good at. But also be able to digest, more of your content, more of that other content out there from everyone that loves the Red Sox.
Yeah,
so
I've been
excited for that and happy to be on.
I've been loving it throughout the spring training. Like with the first game, it was like, Red Sox Twitter's back, and then the whole debacle ended up happening with, we're not even going to talk about it. But Lauren and I brought it up a little bit. Just be respectful. Coop, I said it perfectly. Be nice to yourself. Also be respectful to others, because also just in the same aspect too, like it's easy with when the emotions are high to go back and forth with somebody, and there's always those people on Twitter like, I'm right, you're wrong, but actually nobody has any clue what's happening behind those doors.
In the grand scheme of things, we are all on Twitter and we are not in that front office. Like, so let's all just treat it that way. Let's not be too serious. Let's all have a little fun, but let's also have some fun discussion as well. Okay. Like that's what we do best.
I agree.
That's what we do
so
best.
For anybody that wants to tune more into whether it's your Twitter content or anything that you're working on, where can they find all that stuff?
Oh man, so Coop_Leone across all like social devices, whatever apps, whatnot, Snapface. Don't do Snapface. But yeah, Coop_Leone, LEONN or LEON. But yeah, baseball isn't boring. At BB isn't boring. At Bradfo Show. Red Sox booth. I'd sometimes tweet from there. I might be doing some more stuff in the season to come with the Instagram. So go follow the Sox booth Instagram. At least get some more Joe Castiglione content in your life. If that's the very least you get out of that, I can promise you we are going to get some Joe Castiglione content out of that. But yeah, I'm just bebopping around on Twitter. Come look at my jokes. I don't know.
No joke when you brought up Joe Castiglione. I almost like faked like falling in my chair.
All-time moment, dude.
But yeah,
all-time.
Definitely go and support Coop. Great guy, great content that he puts out there, and same with what he does producing. Baseball isn't boring. Him and Rob Bradford put out great content. 5 days a week, just like this podcast. So right after you listen to this, go and check that out as well. But
I appreciate that. Oh, and one more thing. There's a book out there. Joe Kelly. I don't know if you remember him. He kind of beat the snot out of Tyler Austin, won a championship, and then decided to do it again with the Dodgers. He wrote a book with Rob. I've been kind of the campaign organizer behind it the past year with Baseball Isn't Boring, if you have been following that. But the book's out now. My name's in it. That's kind of cool. Yeah. So go buy it for me at the very least and just read that one page that I'm on. If not, the rest of the book is fantastic. You have quotes from MLB players. There's an entire chapter where it's an interview between Joe Kelly and Rob Manfred talking about the state of baseball and that's pretty cool. It might be going. It's awesome. It's a great book. I was privy to the Zoom interview for that. So that's deep in my computer somewhere if anyone ever wants to see the full interview of that. But yeah, great book. It's a damn near perfect game. Reclaiming America's Pastime, written by Joe Kelly and Rob Bradford. So they did a great job. I had to plug that.
No,
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize at all.
One last word.
I love it. Well, appreciate you taking the time, Coop.
I hope that you did enjoy my conversation with Coop Leonard and got a little bit of insight on some of the people that we think are the breakout candidates for the Red Sox going into the 2023 season. And also enjoyed hearing some of the Twitter responses. If you heard your name, I hope that you were excited to hear that we involved you in the episode. But if you want to be involved in more episodes in kind of like the section that we did in this episode, talking about the different Twitter responses, make sure to go over and follow us over on Twitter. It's LO_Red Sox. One thing that we like to do before each and every single episode, sort of post or tease the topic that we're going to be talking about in an open-ended question, get your opinions, and then we like to react it on the episode to not only get the listeners involved, but also get other opinions out there outside of just Lauren and I's. And we also want to try to make this podcast the most fan-engaging Red Sox podcast that there is out there. So go over, make sure to follow us over there. And also follow myself. It's at Jake Iggy. And also my co-host Lauren is three laws, Lauren with 4 R's. But as always, we greatly appreciate everybody tuning into the Locked On Red Sox podcast and for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Now make your second listen and check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball. Win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies. I don't know about you. I've been listening to this almost every single day leading up to my fantasy draft. I want to win a little bit of money as well as beat my friends. So if you want to do the same, definitely make sure to check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball. You can find it wherever you listen to podcasts and over on YouTube. But as always, we thank you so much for tuning in to Locked On Red Sox. We hope that you have a great rest of your day. And we'll end it how we always end it. Keep the faith and let's go Sox. Peace.